Okay, so many of you may have heard over the internet or through the New York Times or something about Cecil the Lion, who was killed a little while ago by a Minnesota dentist who reportedly paid $54,000 to hunt a lion. One of the most controversial parts of the story is the fact that Cecil lived in a national sanctuary. That means he's supposed to have been protected from hunters, and yet he was lured out of this sanctuary with bait and killed by this hunter. Most authorities are saying that this is likely an illegal kill and there may be charges brought against the hunter. I'm not going to get into the legality about this because there's a lot of other things that should be discussed in light of this story. First, I should say that my views about hunting are extremely complex and I am not completely opposed to it. For example, in America, particularly on the East Coast, there's a huge problem of overpopulation of deer. And this was actually brought about by the fact that we humans killed all of their natural predators. I'm not opposed of careful, regulated hunting of deer as long as it's done in a responsible way that helps improve the health of the entire population. But when we're talking about endangered species and most animals in Africa, this is a completely different story. According to the New York Times, a century ago, there were 200,000 lions in Africa. Now there's only 30,000. This is a huge problem. That's a major decrease, and this is one of the top predators in Africa. And that has ramifications that affect the entire ecosystem. A lot of hunting proponents have argued that charging huge amounts of money for a license to hunt that then goes into conservation efforts is actually better for the species than not hunting them at all. They say that the money that goes into the conservation is more valuable than the loss of the single animal, and also that it may decrease the number of weak animals in the herd. Though the money would be nice for conservation efforts, what's actually a lot more important is awareness. It's because people want these things from these animals whose entire populations are in danger because of humans. It's more important to teach people that these are not things you actually want to have in your home than to spend money protecting more land. People still want ivory products or a lion head at their house, and in many parts of Asia there's a popular belief that a rhino's horn is medicinal. It's not. It's made of the exact same proteins as are in your nails and your hair. It doesn't do anything. The reason why this is more important than the money we can get from hunting license is because as long as there is a demand out there in the public, it doesn't matter if all hunting is illegal. Poaching will still happen, and people will still be selling these pieces of animal all over the world. Poaching used to just be an environmental concern. That's not true anymore. Today, the most successful poachers are parts of larger groups, and these groups send the money that they get from poaching to terrorist organizations, including ISIS. So yeah, that was a bit of a scare tactic, but it's actually a way where we can really hurt terrorist organizations. If we're able to cut off their funding, they won't have anywhere near as much power. Also, the argument that it's getting rid of the weak animals is kind of ridiculous. It's trying to play on natural selection, but that only works if some animals have a better chance of survival than others because of some evolutionary advantage. This is not the case. The other thing about the argument for killing off weak animals is we have no idea what weak actually means. We don't know what adaptations are going to be useful in the future for the survival of the species. The best way to ensure that a species survives into the future is to ensure that it has a large amount of genetic diversity, so that it has many different possible adaptations so that it can survive many different possible futures. And the only way to ensure high genetic diversity is to ensure that they have a high population. And that means not killing any of the members of the population. Let their natural predators do that, not us. This story actually also reveals a huge systemic problem in the way we've been trying to protect animals that we haven't been talking about. And that's the problem with the sanctuary. Sanctuaries are great ideas and they do work really well, but the problem is most animals in sanctuaries don't stay still, particularly in continents like Africa, where these animals are used to traveling thousands and thousands of miles every year. A sanctuary just can't hold them. They're going to leave the sanctuary at some point, and so they may be protected during a certain part of the year, but the rest of the time they are not. And therefore, we have to look at it differently than just these animals are protected when they're within these boundaries. We have to look at they're protected all the time because these animals are endangered and need our help. This is actually a conversation we're going to have soon in the US regarding Yellowstone's wolf population and what happens to them when they leave the boundaries of Yellowstone Park. Okay, so that's not all I have to say about Cecil the Lion, but I could probably go on forever about hunting and poaching. So that's all for today. I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for Michelle's video and like and subscribe. Bye!